Welcome to my workshop. Are you ready for a fun, happy, highly accelerated failure exploration, also known as a HALT test? We're going to do one. What are we going to do it on? This chess clock. You've probably seen in movies when they have chess tournaments, or maybe you've been at parks where people are playing chess and you see this clock. And chess players use it to time their moves. And I thought it would be a really good thing for us to do some exploration on. It has plastic injection molded housing, Lexan glass, mechanisms that are internally, so we have the mechanical component. And what we're first going to do is we are going to drop it from probably what is its design specification, which is table height, 3 feet, and let it hit a hard surface. There's a tile floor in here, so very hard. So we're going to guess that that is its design specification. But then we're going to start exploring, and we're going to continue to drop it from higher and higher heights. And each time take a look at what happens inside. And what we will be very likely to discover is some really interesting ways that it fails that provide awesome ideas to innovate and make the design stronger. And in most cases, there'll be free changes. As long as we do this early enough in the program and we still have the flexibility to make a big design change, that's what we're going to do. So let's drop it. It looks to be fine. I see no damage at all. It works exactly as it's supposed to. Everything's good. Even the battery cover didn't come off. So I would say very successful. But let's open it up and take a look inside to see if there's any damage. Okay, you can see with the top off there, don't see any internal issues. You can hear it clicking. You can actually see it, the mechanism turning as it's clicking back and forth. The switches are in place. The housing's fine. The batteries even stayed in place. So looks like 3 feet is no damage, which was probably the product spec. So let's do 3 feet 2 more times. So that'll be 3 times at 3 feet, and then let's take it up. That's 3 times total on the tile floor from 3 feet. I don't see any exterior damage. I see where it landed. There's a scuff on that corner. So as we can see, everything works fine. If I put the batteries back in, yep, I can see that this side is working correctly. I can see that this side is working correctly. So 3 times from 3 feet seems to be okay. Let's go higher. We're going to do next 6 feet. Okay, a little more excitement on that one. That was 6 feet, dropped once. You can see we lost, the hands popped off. And also, I noticed on the back, the 2 adjustment pieces are no longer centered. One of them has come loose. So let's open it up and take a look and see. Okay, interesting. So this mechanism popped back. It's actually not fully broken. What happened is, if you can see, it popped out of place. So if it snaps back in place, totally repairable. And I imagine that's why the hands came off. So impressive. Okay, but now we know if we were designing this, probably what would make a huge difference is putting a little bit of silicone here, or a little bit of adhesive, or even hot glue. Just enough to keep that from, when it hits, bouncing but not coming totally disengaged, and you would have a product that would probably go from 3 feet to 6 feet with that one simple change. Or maybe you don't want to do that, have glue in your process, and you make this tongue a little bit deeper. Now looking at the exterior, we can see that we have a crack here, we have a break. So the question is, could you design this differently so that that is not the case? Could you like you have these feet here, what if you had a feature here that was a little bit thicker along the corners, which then would take the shock and control it from going to the thinnest cross section here, where it fits into here? That would be a simple change that would be done with just a mold change. So there are two very simple changes that will turn this from a 3-foot drop clock on tile to a 6-foot. Got our money's worth already, but let's go higher. Let's go to 8 feet and see what else happens. Our 8-foot drop on tile, and that was after 3 times at 3 feet, 1 time at 6 feet. So what happened? Well, the case is starting to come open. So let's take a look and see what happened inside. Okay, we had the same thing happen with this coming loose. But as far as other internal damage, let's see if it will actually work. If I put it back together. Now, of course, the hands aren't on there, but I would imagine if we hear this moving that we would not be having an issue. Yes, I hear it working. So one of the failures we saw with our 8-foot drop was when the case was together, you could see that it was separated at one corner, which means a fastener let go. So I took a look at the screw in that corner, and there was white plastic material on the threads. And it's a self-tapping screw into the boss in the inner frame part here. And so the question is now is, do we fix that or do we leave it? Well, this is where that ratio factor balance comes into play. If we were looking to have a set mid-level cost point or a value cost point for this, we would have to be careful to consider adding the kind of dollar value it would take to put a metal insert thread in that plastic boss and then use machine screws. Now that would be much stronger, but that might end up raising the cost to where you lose market share for what you're looking to do. Because remember, we just made 2 free changes that turned this into an 8-foot drop on tile clock, which is going to impress the customer who's expecting it to satisfy its requirements of 6-foot drops. So now let's go for multiple high force drops from above 8 feet, and we're going to keep doing it until we get total destruction so we can look at how it failed in every way possible. Same thing as putting that dynamite in the Apollo rocket motor in the thruster cone and study all the ways that it breaks. Here we go. We just did smash. Success. I would say we pretty much blew it up. So what smash was 8 feet, but me throwing it down harder. I have 8-foot ceiling, so I couldn't go any higher, but let's say that was more like 10 feet or 12 feet hitting the tile. So we have a lot of damage here now. We have the broken boss on the back there, so it's screw held, but that boss broke. So maybe, again, if we wanted to go much higher strength and we were going to put those threaded inserts in here, what we would do is make a boss with ribs on it coming out to the back, making that stronger. So we have lost the mechanism here, this button. Let's take a look at what else is going on inside. So inside we have a broken boss from this white piece and a broken boss from the back side, which is really interesting because with both of them there is a lot of room if you wanted to put ribs coming off of it to further secure it. Again, that would be probably a free change as far as the plastic injection molding goes. And the same here, there's plenty of room for that as well. So again, that would be a higher cost point because to get to that you would have had to done the metal threaded inserts. We got damage in the mechanism here, and of course the front cover came off. Well, I would say we got our money's worth. We were able to, with just investing about an hour, a tabletop, and a tape measure, find out 2 things we can do with this design to double the height that it can take an impact on a hard floor. If you recall, the spec we were estimating was probably 3 feet, which it did fine, but we're able to get to 6 feet by addressing the 2 first failures we found. The first was how this mechanism is retained in here. It popped out. It didn't break anything, it just left the retention mechanism. So we simply could add some adhesive after it's assembled or change the feature to make it deeper, and that would keep that in place up to 6 feet. The other was the corner here cracked in the case, and it was at the thinnest part where there's a lip that connects them. So you probably could just add an extruded feature on the corners that protected that. Again, a free fix if it's early enough in the design process and you haven't made your final molds. Those 2 free fixes could easily start to get you that bulletproof label from a lot of customers. But we even found others. We found that the threads would pull out of the bosses holding the cases together. We could put metal inserts in there. Now we're talking about adding some cost. And we also saw that then going beyond that, we could change the features of the bosses by adding ribs to the edges of them. So there is where our ratio factor balance work is going to come into play. Do we add cost to get more reliability? Or are we staying within the balance that we set at the beginning of the program? It's amazing. We instantly got free fixes that are going to make us more robust, and now we have the information to decide, do we want to go a step farther? So I think you can see how highly accelerated life testing, HALT, which it's not, it's HAFE, highly accelerated failure exploration, combined with the ratio factor method done in the robust ready phase, has a tremendous ROI.